And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Monday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Hope you had a great weekend. Lots going on, of course. Middle of September, week 3 college football, week 2 NFL, and week 1 PGA Tour. New season 2022-23 schedule kicked off this week. The wraparound season, Foritnet Championship in California. Lots to talk about there. Live Golf in Chicago, DP World Tour in Europe. Got you covered, folks. Probably going to touch it all here. And the man to help me just got back from wine country late last night. He gets up early. Kurt Byram, how you doing?
Good, Travis. Good to be with you.
Thank you, because I know you had a late night. And back in Arizona, early, getting up. Are you here? I got a couple here. Are you a coffee guy, Kurt?
Yeah, I've had a cup and a half so far.
All right, so here
trying
you
to get ready for your show. I try to
check
prepare.
This out. Okay, so
what do you
check
got
this
there?
out. So this is Haymaker Coffee, local group here in Jacksonville. It's the medium roast. And this is the heavy roast here.
It's probably what I need this morning.
You want the heavy? Okay. You want the heavy? I'm sending it to you. I'm going to send it to you after the show because we appreciate you getting up. And I mean, look, I was thinking about you down the stretch, and I was like, all right, here comes Danny Willett, par 5, 18th, just Buster 3-wood down there, Homa, kind of just seemed like this was going to kind of be clean, and there's going to be no fireworks, right? Willett hits it into 3 feet.
Yeah.
Boop, turn it off. It's over, right?
Yep.
Homa's in the bunker, hits it up to the front, rolls back down. It's over. All right, Homa pitches it in. Great shot.
Yeah.
Hits the flag, goes in for birdie. And Danny Willett 3-putts from 3 feet, folks. That's what happened down the stretch, and Max Homa defends his championship at the Foritnet. Have you ever in your career seen anything like that?
I was stunned. Like literally, we're on the air. We're supposed to keep talking about something, and I was just, I couldn't even come up with anything. And we'd already been talking about the entire day how well he had putted inside of 10 feet. From 4 to 8 feet. Like that was the first one that he had missed inside 4 feet for the week. So it was just like, okay, there's pressure on this putt. He still had, Homa made him get up there and have to make that putt. But I thought, we're talking about a Masters champion, a guy who's won huge events over in Europe as well. And it's just like, the way he had gone about his business on Sunday, we just didn't expect anything weird to happen. Okay, so he misses the first one, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's not going to win outright. But when he hit it as hard as he did, we're like, oh my God, this is further away than the one he just missed. And then you really knew that like the nerves were really kicking in, and that obviously was all pressure. I mean, it's crazy what pressure does in situations like that. And I think obviously Homa holding it sort of. The chances of holding that pitch shot are, I don't know. Maybe he holds 2 in 10 of those, 3 in 10 at the most. So that was a little bit of the shocker to Willett's system, and then the pressure kicked in, and then you saw what you saw.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, it's not like Danny Willett's trying to win for the first time. I mean, he's won some big tournaments, including a green jacket, in full control, a golf swing that I've really always enjoyed looking at over the years. Kind of went away there for a while, and there he is, in the driver's seat. And great pitch by Homa. It hit the flag. It was moving pretty good, but he had to try to make it.
Yeah.
And I give him a lot of credit, especially after that bunker shot, which he clearly kind of hit fat. Wasn't a clean shot for him, and he kind of bounced back and knock it in. You just don't know. Every shot all the way down. That's why they say it is truly hard to win on the PGA Tour. And that tournament speaks volume to it. Let's talk about Max for a second. You've been watching him over the years. This guy, I think fair to say, perhaps a little bit of a late bloomer, right? Out there, kind of struggled early in his career. But he's won 5 times now. 5 times in the PGA Tour. He's won Wells Fargo's twice. He's won the Foritnet now back-to-back years. Of course, he had the big win at the Genesis. And I want to get your analysis of Max and where you've seen improvement and what impresses you the most about Max Homa. But from my perspective, Kurt, when I looked at him, he's kind of sneaky long. And I think it was ironic his short game shot is what propelled him into that win, because I think that's where perhaps he's, at least in my eyes, has gained the most improvement over the last few years.
All right. So with Homa, I think you kind of got to go back a couple of years with him when he started working with Mark Blackburn. And the first thing Blackburn does, he's a TPI guy, so he measures what these guys are capable of doing biomechanically. And he did all the measurements, and they figured out that some of the things that Max was working on in his golf swing, he wasn't even capable physically. He didn't have that, the movement ability to get to where he was trying to get in his swing. So they made those adjustments, and Blackburn, helped him with his golf swing. And really, I think at this point he's gotten to a point with his golf swing where he really knows what he's doing. And part of that change for him was he went to a cut.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of his shots, like even all the way through the bag, not just the driver. So he moved the ball up in his stance. He went to a cut, and when he's hitting this cut, he really has to keep rotating hard in order to properly hit the cut. So he's actually, because of the confidence and the way he's swinging at it now with that swing, he's gotten faster too. So he's gained yardage. Just as in the last year, I think he gained over 6 yards from last year off the tee.
Yep.
So that swing changes, the confidence he's gained from that, and that's really locked in. Then he was able to concentrate on the short game, the putting, the wedge play, and now that's been the biggest improvement from let's say 18 months ago to now. And so he's really becoming a complete player. And I think that's why the wins have all of a sudden started to come. The confidence that he is good enough to win out there has really kicked in, and he really believes in himself now.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's certainly not afraid of the moment. When he gets in the moment, he looks like he belongs, and you're gonna have to beat him. You're gonna have to go get him and beat him. He's never finished second on the PGA Tour, and he's finished third once, and he's got 5 wins. So when he gets there, there's a lot of win equity there. You make some good points about Blackburn. He's going to be on the podcast next week, and I'm excited to bring him back. And that's when we kind of bring up the swings, and we look at, and kind of geek out as instructors from that standpoint. And I saw a picture, a comparison last time he was on, and it was with the wedge shot, and he was up about 3/4, and Max had the shaft not vertical, but close. And then you saw the new, and the shaft was kind of pitched back more and more on plane per se. And you could definitely see the rotation in the form and the shaft more on plane early. And it was pretty significant. And the proof is in the pudding. His approach wedge play, to your point, is much better. And he seems to be a little bit more nifty around the greens. So there's some definite improvement there. And I look forward to talking with Mark about that, because that's not always the case, is it, Kurt? I mean, it's just that we saw Ricky Fowler, who's on the other side, make changes, go down this path for 3 years, just nothing there. He leaves his coach. Now he's back with Butch, new caddy, trying to put the pieces back together from what he maybe got away from. What was your sense with Ricky this week?
I spoke to him on Wednesday. He was hitting balls on Wednesday, and I spoke to him a little bit, asked him, the obvious questions. How's it going with Butch, and how much work have you done with him? And most of it's just been through videos that he's sending Butch and text messages. And Butch really, he hasn't really been out to Las Vegas and having long sessions with him or anything. And he did give John Tillery a lot of credit, because he said that a lot of things that Tillery had him working on, he learned a lot. And it's very similar to what he and Butch are seeing as well. So it's not like John Tillery was completely off. It was just, maybe he just needed to hear it from a different source. And obviously he's worked with Butch before, and he has a lot of confidence in what he's telling him. So I thought Fowler, I thought everything was really positive for him last week. The fact that he played as well as he did, I think he can build on that.
Yeah.
And it's been a combination of things with him. He tried to make pretty dramatic swing changes, but what he showed me in video is still kind of what he showed me a swing on the range the other day in Napa, and he was he's trying to keep it a little more. He has that tendency to all of a sudden roll it over in his backswing, get really flat and laid off. So he showed me a swing where it's more kind of the back of his left hand is, what would you call maybe shut, at the ball more longer going back, and then his arms get up more at the top of his backswing. And he showed me where he wants to be, and then he showed me a swing where he really, it was exaggerated. And he said, that's where I need to get to. And so, I think he's pretty excited about it. The thing about Ricky, on Sunday, he had one of the biggest galleries out there. That's the thing. He's still a draw. Love him. So, hopefully he can build on that finish in Napa yesterday and get back to getting in the hunt again.
Yeah, it's interesting with Ricky. I've talked about it a lot here on the podcast, in the changes. And, I made the statement that as a teacher, when you do this long enough and you work with players, you're going to have some that you just can't help. It's just going to happen. I was surprised from Ricky's standpoint as the president of his own enterprise that he elected to start going down some of these wholesale changes. I mean, his whole life, the shaft's been pitched back, and laid off, and then it gets steepens, and then he kind of gets the high handle, and his head kind of hangs, like that's been Ricky. And then you go more across, and then you try to turn the shaft a little more down the line. Now the shaft wants to shallow more. I mean, these are like, whoa. I mean, like my head's like exploding. And I remember I had John on when they very first started working, and we were talking about these changes. And I was just like, I mean, I'm not sure I'd want this job, like, like, I'm not sure I would. I don't think I'd want this job. And I remember talking with a lot of coaches like, whoo, this is some heavy lifting here that John's going to have to do. This is some heavy lifting.
Especially with a guy who had, he had had some success.
Yeah.
I mean, he won 5 times, and, with a really unique swing that he'd been swinging that way since he's been a little kid. And that's, as you know, I mean, you're doing that every day, but those are pretty dramatic changes. But, these guys are always looking to improve, and we'll see where he ends up. But I think Napa was good for him. I think he can build on that, and I think he's going to give him some confidence that he's going down the right path here with Butch.
So Ricky's won 5 times. Max Homa has won 5 times. Wow. Say that out loud. You probably wouldn't think that at this point, or at least on the surface. I want to get to the President's Cup. I saw Max got in late at Quail Hollow. He knows that place pretty well too. That's where he's won twice. And I want to get to the President's Cup here in a second, but I gotta ask you. I mean, you're out there still on the PGA Tour. You were just there last week. I'm curious, how much, Kurt, is the conversation still out there on the compound, in the media, in the locker room, on the driving range? How much is the conversation still about LIV Golf? I know it was suffocating for a long time when it first came off. I mean, just walking around and your friends, I mean, you couldn't go one question without them then bringing it up. Is it still dominating the conversation, or has it kind of simmered down a little bit?
I feel like it's simmered down a little bit. I think, when I think everybody kind of knew or expected Cam Smith to go. And, even after he won the Open at St. Andrews, I think that it never really died down with him. So that expectation of him going, we all kind of expected. And so, but I think once he went and got that over with, that, now it feels like guys are a little bit more back to business and concentrating on what they're doing on the PGA Tour. But there's still a lot of questions, a lot of talk about LIV and how it's affecting the PGA Tour. And don't forget, I think there were 6 or 7 players that benefited from those guys going to LIV, who kept their PGA Tour card exempt status because of it. So there are a number of players that are glad those guys left for LIV. It's still out there. It's still, there's still people that we're wondering about if they're at the end of the season or at the end of this year or something like that they still might go. So and
I heard Max talk about how it's affected him and his now placement on the President's Cup team, and that he had a little chip on his shoulder because he was hearing some chirping. I don't know where it was coming from. I don't know if it was from the locker room, which I doubt, But if it was from social media, which he's active on, that hey, the only reason you're going to be on the President's Cup team is because of Liv and no DJ and no Brooks and no Bryson and he went out and kind of played with a little chip.
If there's going to be one benefit from social media, then maybe that's it. He uses the negative commentary from, better than me probably, because I'm not real active on social, but if you can use those kind of negative comments to fuel yourself to get better and to make a President's Cup team or a Ryder Cup team or win golf tournaments, then great. Then you're using it properly. And hopefully, these players don't let the negative stuff bother them that they see written about them on, or, the comments on social media. But I really liked that Max used it sort of that, like he said, the chip on his shoulder to inspire him to play better golf. And if that's all it takes, then good for him. I expect him to be a really solid player at the President's Cup too, by the way. Who wouldn't want to play with him? He's good from tee to green, and now all of a sudden, around the greens and putting, he's solid as a rock as well. So he's going to be a good partner.
Yeah, it's I think it's fair to say on one hand, look, no DJ, he's playing good golf. Bryson has been a little erratic since going over there. No Brooks. All right, so now you got some new faces in there, and I think Homa, I think he understands the temperature in the room as well. He has played. It's probably going to be a little different golf course. I don't know how much longer they can make it there, but I would assume Davis is going to stretch it a little bit, not much rough, pretty vanilla pins, kind of a thing. But Max hasn't played well in major championships. That's kind of his next step. And he knows that. Like, he hasn't been relevant in big tournaments. Now you have Kisner, who is a good match ball player. Horschel's going to be in there. And those are the three guys you probably look to that now have an opportunity in front of them to go out and push, because the rest of the crew, which I'll mention here briefly here, Cantlay, Burns, Thomas, Scheffler, Schauffele, Finau, Morikawa, Spieth, and Cameron Young, even though Cameron Young as a rookie has been, he's got the firepower and he's been very, very impressive, and nothing really seems to get to him. You go to the other side, that's where they've been depleted a little bit. And I feel bad for Trevor Immelman, who's been on, and when your best player goes, Cameron Smith can't even play for you, who's arguably the hottest player in the game right now, who just won on Live in Chicago. You got no Joaquin Niemann. And were you surprised? Were you surprised that Niemann left at his age, went over to Live?
Very. As far as I know, he's never had any injury problems. He's in his mid-20s. Just won in LA at Riviera back in February. I was really surprised that he left. You hear all these numbers, what they're giving him up front. So I don't know what's true or not, but I felt like there's a guy who had, at least 12 to 15 years of great golf left in him on the PGA Tour, and it would have been interesting to see how good he could have gotten.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised with Niemann going as well, and and Cam Smith. These are young guys coming into their own, right now, and with the future uncertain, I think, they've got to think that, well, we'll get back there eventually. It's all gonna smooth itself out. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I think, to your point, I don't know how it could be the same, especially for Dustin, who won in Boston, Cam in Chicago. You've already got millions in the bank. So what are you playing for? I think the greatest pressure is everything that's not the money. It's the major championship. And why is it the major championship? Because it's the best field. Yeah. And it's the best field with significance and a legacy and a history. It's like all of the things that are not about the money that makes it the most meaningful and the most pressure. And I think to those guys who have so much money, my guess would be not. Maybe to one of those younger guys like a James Pyatt, or who don't have all that money, maybe it would. I'm sure they would be more nervous. But that's where that bad taste comes in, because it's only about the money. Only, that's it. And that's unfortunately where we're going. And it kind of segues me into this not theory, but my opinion on, some of the things that have happened over the last, let's say, couple months, right, with Liv, who's now 4 tournaments in. So let me throw this at you, Kirk, and see if you agree with this or disagree with it. But, in anything in life, competition obviously is going to bring out your strengths and weaknesses. I mean, I think competition is good, and certainly Liv, with all the money they have, they've went right up head to head with the tour and have weakened their state in bringing these plays over. But the tour's had to kind of take a step back and look at themselves and say, yeah, we're doing a lot of really good things. There's a ton of strengths, but I think there's been some weaknesses that have been exposed, and I don't want to get into all of those. But I do think one of them, Kurt, and I've been talking about this a lot, is the schedule. And, the 46 weeks, alternate fields. And I know and I know that there is something they have to protect there with all of the tour members, right? There's got to be opportunities for all the tour members. And it feels like this opportunity for number 150 perhaps was the same for number 1. And so you have all these run of tournaments, 46 in all. And I've just always felt, Kurt, like it kind of gets watered down after a while. You start getting into all of these fields that we saw in July. And then you see this field week 1 of the PGA Tour. I mean, this is week 1 kicking off the new season. To me, this should be like a huge celebration moment. And I think what's happened, Kurt, is like when you turn the tour on, like you're not sure who you're going to see, right? And I'll give Liv this credit in that I know it's only 48 players, but when you do turn them on, you know who you're going to see. And I think those 48 players and leading with their top names and knowing who's going to be there, I think there's value to that. So for me, and I know the season's going to change for the tour the following year, I feel these elevated events, I feel like that's the PGA Tour. I feel like those tournaments, that's the PGA Tour. And then you go down to the Korn Ferry Tour. What if it's 15, if it's 20, whatever it is, you turn the PGA Tour on, those 20 events, PGA Tour, we're leading with our stars versus say what we got week 1 this week and say what we got in July at the Rocket Mortgage and the 3M and the John Deere and all those. I mean, you agree with that?
Well, I think that's the whole idea is, that the amazing thing to me is that they got all of these stars, the Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, and then, Morikawa. They got all these top players that are committed to the PGA Tour to also commit to play in 20 events. The Tour Championship this year was Rory's 16th event on the PGA Tour. Now, he of course plays a little bit in Europe like he is right now. Mm-hmm. But that's a pretty big commitment for these guys, believe it or not. It's not, it doesn't sound like much to the rest of us. You have to play 20 events on the PGA Tour every year, but those guys generally don't. And then they add a couple of events on the DP World Tour in Europe, or they go, maybe add a couple of events in the Middle East or whatever. So, I think that if they can get all those top guys to commit and play in obviously the elevated events, and then add, let's say, 3 events to their schedule that they don't normally play, then, that's the whole idea, that you're going to get the best players together more often. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah.
I think the hard part is going to be, and the PGA Tour and the people that have to go do this, they know how hard it is, because we had a meeting with them at Tour Championship and they admitted that it's going to be tough. Is how do you go have those conversations with all these other events that aren't elevated events now?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? So that'll be a really interesting conversation they're going to have with them.
Yeah. And I don't know the answer to that, but I think the point I'm making is that, like, you can, this season that's rolled out has been the thinking kind of pre-Liv, like this was set in stone, and let's just keep adding tournaments, and it gets watered down. And I think that approach kind of bit them a little bit, because now Liv comes in and they're like, wait, when you turn it on, this is who you're going to see. These are the guys, and they're not where they want to be yet, and they're paying extraordinary amount of money. And I get that. But the model in itself, I think this is a big shift in reaction to what is happening. And now you get these elevated events. Do you call them PGA Tour plus what you're going to have underneath that? I think is a significant branding thing. And I think you're going to have to manage your sponsors according to that. But in Jay's defense, the commissioner, even if this is what they wanted to do, I think it'd be hard for them it'd be hard for Jay to go to the top players and say, hey guys, this is what we're going to do. I think the top players had to get together and say, no, this is what we're going to do. Like I put a little bit of this on the players too. It's like they had to get together and say, look guys, we have to play together. And like, we have the PGA Tour has to lead with the stars. And when you turn it on, like we have to be there.
Yeah.
Because right now
they're not. Goal.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole goal. So we'll see how it all shakes out. And, obviously this is the last time we're going to see these tournaments, in the fall, like we're seeing this fall. Right. I mean, at the, start of 2024, it'll just, the top 70 are going to be exempt. And then, we'll see the rest of those guys are going to be fighting for, their spot in the order of how they're going to get into tournaments.
Yeah, it's fascinating and how it's all gonna play out. Now you got guys, opting out of the lawsuit on the live side. I see Phil Mickelson's considering it now. I had Peter Ginsburg on, who is a top lawyer, and he said that's unusual in an antitrust case, like people start taking their name off. It's very unusual. So, is that gonna weigh in on the court's decision? All right, let's finish with this. I mentioned the Americans team. You've got the international team. I'm going to list the names. You got to give me 3 guys, Kurt, that have to play exceptionally well for this team to have a chance in hell to win, right? Because they're minus 700 right now. The Americans are minus 700 to win.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet. I can't remember who it was from that said that's equivalent to like a 17-point underdog in football. A 17-point underdog in football is what basically the international team is. All right, here we go. Hideki, Sung J M, Tom Kim, Corey Connors, Mito Pereira, Adam Scott, Taylor Pendrith, Sebastian Munoz, Cam Davis, Siwoo Kim, Christian Bezuidenhout, and Cage Lee. Give me 3 names. These guys got to be dogs in order for them to have a chance in hell.
Well, I mean, you named them. The guys right off the top there, Matsuyama, Sung J M. I think probably somebody like Scott needs to, and really raise the level of his game and be inspired to take that underdog role. But I think those 3 guys, I would throw Max Homa into that now too, because he is at the top of his game. He's in form. He admitted that he's ready to go. He's got that chip on his shoulder. So I think those 3 or 4 guys really have to play great golf, and then they need to have those other guys play the best that they can possibly play to have a chance. Look, the Americans, no matter what, I mean, even if they come out a little flat or something first day, so loaded that, and in President's Cup, they play more players every day than they do in Ryder Cup. So the American team is way deeper, and you just expect them to wear them down over time. And especially, I think, once they get to the head-to-head matchups on Sunday as well. So, I mean, it's I feel bad for Trevor, honestly.
Yeah,
Cam Smith, Neiman, Leishman, Oosthuizen, like those 3 or 4 guys were going to play every match. They were never going to sit, and they're some of the best players in the world. So it's a tough deal for Trevor.
You think the guys will be there'll be some intensity? You think? I mean, obviously they know there's certain guys not there, and the President's Cup's kind of a backseat to the Ryder Cup. Do you feel like we're going to see some intensity here right out of the gate? I mean, like you said, the Americans could easily be behind, as they do, off to a slow start every once in a while. But like there's going to be some fist pumping in USA and like we're here to win this damn thing and blow these guys out.
I think it'll build. It'll be interesting. From what I've heard from Trevor, the first tee build out and how many people are going to be around the first tee is going to be pretty cool. And I think that'll be loud, and I think it'll be, that'll be fun to watch that. But look, I mean, I think we need the internationals to get off to a good start to create a situation where we're going to see some excitement. So they need to come out hot, and they need to win some matches that first day to really make it interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be disappointed to see 3-1 international. You know, I want the Americans to win, but if it was 3-1 and then what, 5-3, something like that. I don't know, something, going into day 2. All right, well, geez, I better turn this on and see what's going on.
Well, it's kind
and
of
I think,
Royal Melbourne, right?
yeah,
I mean, the national team, the last time they played, had a great
that's right.
chance to win going into Sunday.
That's right.
So it's happened. The hard part is on paper, it's just hard to look at the two teams side by side and imagine that happening come Sunday, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll watch it this week. Kurt, appreciate you jumping on, man. Always great having you on. You're at home, get some rest this week, and I'm watching it from the couch. All right, we lost him. Kurt Byron, Golf Channel. Thank you for being here. Stripe Show Podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. Special one. Our first in-house guest, Russell Knox, joins us in the studio tomorrow. Don't miss it. Lost.